So this section is going to be talking about developing a strategy and a management plan. And while we're not going to take a dive too deep into this, I'm going to give you three different ways of looking at management plans and strategy. So a few weeks ago, we talked about who manages the analytics and whether it's centralized or decentralized. And so now we're going to actually look at how do we actually put this together. One of the ways, and I gave you a great resource here, is something called the Digital Marketing Measurement Model, and I can't take credit for it. It comes from an expert who calls himself the Google Analytics Evangelist, I believe is the term he uses. But he goes through 5 steps for actually developing this measurement plan. And the first is to identify business goals. I think this should sound familiar. And then to develop business objectives for each goal. Now, I flip-flop these. So if you read the article, you're going to see that they say identify business objectives and business goals. In our industry, usually you have goals, which are more umbrella terms, and then objectives are, and he calls them dumb, to have dumb objectives. We, funny enough, call them smart objectives. And that's specific, measurable, attainable, research-based, and time-based. But it's the same general principle as dumb, and you'll, when you read the article, see the acronym that he's talking about. We also have KPIs. So then you go into the KPIs, key performance indicators. These are the milestones to help reach these objectives. And then you need to have parameters for the KPIs. So how are you actually going to execute this? What are the strategies that you're going to use? And then who are the segments of people, behavior, and outcomes that you're looking for from this. And so what does this look like? I gave you a screenshot from that article, to actually 2 screenshots that you can take a look at. So we look here and we see the goals coming across the top, right? So we have website goal, reinforce offline and online advertising. What's the KPI? Branded traffic. What's the target? 7,000 visits per month. So there's parameters, right? What's the segment? Traffic sources, converted visits. And you can see as you go through, over here, website goal, we have engaged community via local events, KPI visitor loyalty, target 50% repeat visits, segments 1, 2, 3 visit buckets. And these would be segments that they've built themselves. Document type, geography is another segment, visitor type, content type, viewed, right? So we have different segments that they built. Another way of looking at it, and you'll see down the left-hand side, we have target, segment, KPIs, goal, and objective. So these are the things that we talked about. And then across the top, we have what they're trying to do. So we have increased sales, improve efficiencies, establish the ABC brand, so whatever your brand is. And so these are really good. I like this chart because I think it shows us, if I'm trying to increase sales, which by the way, you are trying to increase sales, right? So a goal, and these are pretty typical, improve the conversion rate. So how many people come to our site, we want more of them to actually do what we want them to do. For example, apply. Increase customer spend per order. We can't do that at Mercyhurst, but you get the idea from a sales perspective, and so on and so forth down. Okay, and you can see how each of these works based on the different objective or the different goal. Another way to look at this is also from the same author, and he talks about a 10-step web analysis program or platform. And so he walks through, and what you'll see is the things that I'm asking you to do in your report to your client really follows this, or we're going to follow this as much as we possibly can. And so we visit the website. You guys have already kind of done this. You're going to continue to do this. You're going to note objectives, customer experience, and as he refers to it, the suckiness effect. By the way, go to websites at suck.com and you'll see some pretty interesting suckiness. Step 2, how good's the acquisition strategy? So traffic sources report. We're going to talk about reports in a few weeks. How strongly do visitors orbit the website? So visitor loyalty and recency, are they coming back? What can I find that's broken and quickly fixable? Top landing pages, what content makes us most money, so on and so forth. So you have 10 steps that you can go through. And this would be, once you have a pretty good grasp of all of the concepts from the course, this would be my game plan. Walking into a client's office, I have the 10-step approach. The one that he doesn't talk about here is recommendations. I believe that his thought is that you do recommendations in each of these sections here. I prefer the method of analyze, research, then make recommendations. And you'll see that in the report that I'm going to ask you to do. So speaking of the report that I'm asking you to do, we are following a 6-step, though we're calling it a 5-step approach. You've already performed the client background. It's not really step 1, that's kind of just there, because this is something I would do prior to walking into my client's office. So these are steps that I would take before I ever even met with my client. And so you've done that, right? So you've gotten their background, you've looked at their competitors, you've tried to understand their goals if you can, and those kinds of things. Now, for this week, or for the next step, I guess, what you're going to do is a pre-Google Analytics information dump. And so I gave you a document that walks you through an 8-step approach for step 1. You're then going to do kind of a deep dive into web analytics. We're going to do reporting. You're going to take a look at social, and then you're going to actually make recommendations and action items. And so the client background, we've already completed. There's kind of the list of things that you were already looking at. You're then going to go into the pre-Google Analytics, and this is where we really do step 1 of the 10-step plan. You're going to take a look at search engine results and keywords, messages, and content. You're going to look at site speed. You're going to look at accessibility and some backlinks. And again, you have a document that walks you through kind of the 8 steps of what I'm looking for. In the Google Analytics section, you're going to really tackle steps 2 through 10, and I'll give you some more information on that when we get to that point. For reporting, you're going to use Google Reports, Google Analytics reports, to develop a customized reporting dashboard. You're going to develop a reporting distribution plan as well. So what kinds of information need distributed to whom, and then the dashboards, again, we'll talk about how to do those later in the term. In social analytics, you're going to, at minimum, do social analytics reports for Facebook and Twitter, and then you're also going to identify, and you already have in your client background, other pertinent social media sites that you think are relevant to your client. In recommendations and action items, which is the final section, you're going to really tell us, okay, so what? It's the so what. So here's all the things that are wrong, here's all the things that are right, so what? What are the next steps? What should we be doing? Right, so you're going to go in and give them a lot of information, but then at the end, in this last section, you're going to develop a section that gives recommendations and action items. So this will lead to the task list. Here are the things that need to be done. And a lot of times, and I'll show you some samples of this, but a lot of times they have high priority, moderate priority, or low priority, and so it allows the end user to prioritize their own tasks. And so the last thing I leave you with is a list of tools to help you. And so when you go and begin to write your reports, all of these are going to come in useful. And some of them I've mentioned before. Quicksprout.com kind of gives you an overview. PageSpeed Insights gives you page speed insights. Alexa is a ranking. Now this is a free tool at first, and then you have to pay. Social Mention, same kind of thing. You can do a free trial, Simply Measured, free trial. Marketing Grader kind of gives you an overview of your entire website and your competition, which is super cool. So don't just run these for yourself, for your client, run them for their competition as well. And if you only get one shot, some of these you only have one URL that you're allowed to plug in. Well, you have several group members, so give them each a competitor and have them try. Builtwith.com, I know some of you used some creative juices in coming up with some things like what servers do we function on and those types of things. Builtwith.com actually finds it for you. So I don't know if any of you guys found that online, but check it out. It's pretty cool. And that will help you, by the way, go back into your background section and fill in some of the gaps that you might have. Moat.com, you can search for your competitors and what advertising they're running. And then espionage with an I, again, same kind of thing, some competitive intel. So I hope those tools help. I've also put some other tools throughout the presentation, so you can also use those to your advantage.